is Love Doesn't Have to Hurt, sponsored by the Center for a Nonviolent Community. My name is Jake Edmondson, and I volunteered at CNBC for 6 years. We provide support and protective services to the survivors of domestic violence and sexual abuse, and we've been around in one form or another for nearly 50 years. So whether you're an old friend or brand new to the community, thanks for joining us. What would eventually become the Mother Lode Women's Crisis Center grew out of self-defense classes at Columbia College in 1975. As the women grew closer, some shared that they'd been raped, and an organic form of peer counseling evolved. In 1980, we opened one of the first shelters for battered women in rural America. Today, it is a 4-bedroom house with a backyard. Our clients live in safety as housemates, often with their children. Sometimes we help them get their children back. CNBC also operates 6 units of transitional housing for those graduating from the shelter. Many of them are starting over from scratch. A safe, clean, low-cost apartment, even no cost, depending on the circumstances, offers them stability on the road to self-sufficiency. But we're not here to talk about the history of the center. Our name changes reflect an ever-growing mission. Suffice it to say, the Mother Lode Women's Crisis Center begat the Mother Lode Women's Center, who begat the Mountain Women's Resource Center, who begat the Center for a Nonviolent Community. We still do everything I mentioned, except the self-defense classes, and our community reach is broader than ever, from anti-bullying strategies for elementary students to dating violence awareness for teens to men's support groups. The point is, Love Doesn't Have to Hurt may be a new show, but CNBC and its mother and grandmother and great-grandmother have served Tuolumne County for nearly 50 years. The name may have changed, but the love remains the same. Welcome back to this pilot episode of Love Doesn't Have to Hurt. Today we take a deep dive into some dark waters, child abuse in Tuolumne County. We want to face facts squarely, understand them compassionately, and look at effective responses. But before we can do that, some context may be helpful. Let me paint the issue with broad strokes. 60% of the children who are sexually abused do not reveal it. 9 out of 10 know their abuser. We also know that children are deeply affected by domestic violence, whether or not it's directed at them. If a child witnesses personal violence against a family member, or hears it from the other room, or sees the end results, that in itself is a form of child abuse. Tuolumne County is not immune. The sheriff recently hired a detective to focus on crimes against children. We know that child abuse is generational, and to break that cycle, we need to reach kids early. One way CNBC does this is with a series called Storytime. Here's Sarah Garcia reading Your Body Belongs to You.
Hi, my name is Sarah Garcia, and I am one of your local safety heroes. Like a firefighter or doctor or teacher, I am one of the people in our community that you can come to if you need to talk, or if you have something that is making you uncomfortable. So today we are going to read a story together called Your Body Belongs to You. Most of the time, you like to be touched. It feels good to get a hug or a kiss. You say, I like that. You hug and kiss back or snuggle closer. Sometimes you don't like to be touched. Sometimes you don't want a hug or kiss, even from someone you love. Then you can say, "No, not right now, please." Or you can show you don't want to be touched by not hugging or kissing back, or by pulling away. Even if you don't want a hug or kiss right now, you can still be friends. If someone still doesn't understand, ask your mom or dad or another grown-up to help you, to say, "No, not right now, please." Your body belongs to you. Some places on your body should never be touched by other people, except when you need help in the bathroom, or getting dressed, or when you go to the doctor. These are the places on your body covered by a bathing suit. They are called your private parts. If anyone tries to touch your private parts, tell your parents or another grown-up you trust. Your body belongs to you. When you don't want a hug or kiss, it's okay to say, "No, not right now, please." It's important to tell if someone tries to touch your private parts. Sometimes you like to be touched, and sometimes you don't. But mostly, getting a hug or kiss and being close to other people feels good. And that's our story. Thanks for reading the story with us. We're going to do a little practice of our safety steps. The first one is say no, and then get away and tell someone. One more time. Say no, get away, tell someone. Okay, say it with me. We're gonna say no, get away, tell someone.
Simple production values and genuine warmth mark these creations from the team at CNBC. And it's hard to imagine a more age-appropriate message for kindergartners than stop, run away, tell someone. If you want to see more, you can watch them on demand at nonviolentcommunity.org. When we come back, we'll unpack this issue with two staffers from the center. One provides services directly to families in the middle of a crisis. The other creates community programs to prevent such crises from happening in the first place. And we'll meet a puppet named Mikey.
Hi friends, I'm filmmaker Willa Polson, and when I'm not filming, I take my camera or my phone and I go around and show you a little bit of what life is like here on my 20-acre homestead near Yosemite National Park. On Willa's Vintage Homestead, I talk about homestead things, vintage things, and often homestead and vintage things at the same time. Join me as I explore old-time and heritage skills, activities, crafts, collectibles, gardening, animals, antiques, architecture, museums, gold country history, and a whole lot more. Be sure to watch my show right here on Access Tuolumne.
I'm Steve Weldon. I'm an adventure nut and a hiking fool, and boy do I love to explore. California's my home, and nothing beats taking to the trails, the roads, and the byways. Come join me while I trek across our Golden State, discovering special places and special folks. Walk in California.
We're back. Thanks for sticking around. Child abuse, be it sexual, physical, emotional, or neglect, is a difficult subject to come to terms with. Here to help us unpack the issue are two staff members from the Center for a Nonviolent Community. Jessie Nosenow is the Direct Services Coordinator for CNVC, and Pam Orba, the organization's Community Services Coordinator. If I were to come to the center with my grandson, what would happen? What would I do with you? Where would we start?
From the very beginning, it would be, depending on the age of your grandson that you would bring in, whether we would meet with that person individually or if you would join them. That's also the survivor's choice. So there can be times they say, no, I don't want my grandpa to join us. And so we would give them the opportunity so that they could speak freely, and sometimes without that pressure, or even just not wanting to disappoint people, even though, it's never anyone's fault that they have been harmed, but that is a way that we often internalize that I did something bad. And it's embarrassing to have to say that in front of someone you love or care about. So we would offer them that autonomy and that choice to speak one-on-one. And if they did disclose, if they were a minor and they disclosed that someone had harmed them, they were going to harm someone else, or they were planning on harming someone, then we would need to report to the appropriate agency like Child Welfare Services. We also are firm believers in referrals too. Like, we are peer counselors, we're not licensed therapists, so we always do make that distinction. If there's especially a youth who has experienced some of those really heavy things, we want them to have multiple people in their corner, not just us. We want them to, have support at school, have support from their family, have support from a therapist, their medical provider. We want them to have those wraparound services, and that's part of what we can do as the advocate. And the case management piece is, how do we get you access to these things? How do we, okay, I'll pick up the phone right now and let's call, whoever we need to call to make sure that happens for you, rather than saying, to an 8-year-old, go care for this.
Yeah.
We are able to be that driving force and say, oh no, I will call right now. Let's get this done for you right now. Oh, you have a therapy appointment on the 14th, And that also takes, I think, a lot of pressure off of the family, especially if there's maybe not everyone's on the same page about what happened, because that is something that I think we see a lot with youth survivors. Is it's hard for the person to wrap their head around, let alone a parent, a grandparent, someone who's an adult in their world. So,
because there can be a lot of blame. The adults can have a lot of self-blame and shame that they didn't do enough to protect. And so they're dealing with their own emotions, and that's where we can really be that supportive, I want to say neutral, not neutral in that we aren't kind and caring, but that neutral third party that wasn't impacted by the harm.
Yes.
And can really offer that clear-headed support. And I just want to add to what Jessie said is, what is important to know about our services is we don't require that a legal case, there's no proof required. So as long as someone self-identifies as a survivor, so they mean like this happened, we can offer support services.
So if we wanted to shift and to go back in time for talk about prevention, it's wonderful that we can offer these things to people who have suffered or are suffering it. But you focus on prevention with community services. So can you talk a little bit about how we try to prevent things?
Certainly. So primary prevention is trying to stop violence before it starts. We want to promote protective factors, so layers of protection that make folks less vulnerable to harm, and minimize risk factors, the situations that make them more greatly exposed to harm or more vulnerable to harm. And it's really a really wide array of things that generally just support a healthy community and well-being. So for example, people might not realize the connection between affordable housing and child sexual abuse. Well, if someone has a safe place, an affordable place to live, there's less stress on the home. A parent might not have to work as many jobs, so there's more supervision, there's stronger connections, and these are all factors that actually can play a part in preventing child abuse and neglect. So access to health care, a medical provider might notice a sign or symptom that's, because they are a trained eye. Schools, so attendance in school can also be a factor in identifying child abuse and neglect, if they're missing a lot of school. And so having quality education and educators who can be aware and connected to youth, all of these are factors. And so we are out advocating for programs on this very big picture level that can create a safety net for children and families, because the less stressed families are, the safer they are, the less likely there's to be harm. So, for example, one of the reasons we have high substantiated rates of child abuse in Tuolumne County is drug use. And so drug use, while it's its own, substance use is a mental health issue, it's also can be a form of coping with stress and unhealthy, living conditions. And so those are things that we want to reduce access. We want to reduce the need, the desire, all of those things. And that's where we work with law enforcement. We work with substance abuse prevention folks. And it's a really multi-layered approach to prevention, and a more direct approach how we at Center for a Nonviolent Community work with youth is we offer age-appropriate prevention curriculum in schools and community groups. And so that's where we'll go in and we'll teach, the younger grades, we talk about empathy and how to be a friend and the difference between a surprise and a secret, and a secret, should not necessarily be kept to keep them safe and we talk about those things. And as we get older, it's bullying prevention, it's healthy relationships, it's consent, and those conversations and how to navigate those waters, because not everybody gets taught those skills,
Right.
and how to have these conversations. And really that's what we're doing, is building relationships with youth or with other folks who work with youth in the community to have a healthy enough relationship to have a conversation, and hopefully a youth will listen and know that somebody cares about them. And if in the event they're ever unsafe or uncomfortable or at risk, they'll tell someone so we can help keep them safe.
Now, you've also created materials directly for the young audience, right? One that comes to mind is Mikey Says No.
Mikey Says No is a video that we made as part of our Keeping Kids Safe program, which is an early childhood sexual abuse prevention program targeted towards, preschool age or around their youth. And it really offers identification of private parts, having a shared language, because sometimes even trying to share, I've been hurt, I've been made to feel uncomfortable, and what feelings it brings up, being able to express it. As opposed to just acting out, so being able to verbalize these things. And what happens is Mikey is put in an unsafe, uncomfortable situation. He has been taught to say no, so he says no, but he doesn't really know what to do. He feels weird. He goes to school the next day, and a caring teacher observes that Mikey's behavior has changed, and ultimately he's able to disclose that it happened, and the situation could be addressed.
All right, let's take a look.
Hi, Mikey. Your granny left for the store, and I'm here to babysit you. Would you like to play a game?
Yeah, I love games. What game are we going to play?
It's called Sarah Says. It's my special secret game.
Okay, well, that sounds fun. What do I have to do?
You do what I say, and when we're done with the game, I'll give you candy.
That sounds easy, and I love candy. What do I do first?
Sarah says, give me a high five.
Okay.
Now Sarah says, give me a hug.
Well, that was easy.
Now Sarah says, pull down your pants.
I don't think I want to do that.
Well, it's okay to do that. And remember, when we're done with the game, I'm going to give you some candy.
Kids, I don't think I want to play this game anymore. What should I do?
Okay, that was a pretty amazing piece of video. Congratulations. Can you talk a little bit about how it's been received?
Absolutely. So, the truth of it is that the content, while, the Center for Nonviolent Community did a beautiful job. I didn't work at the agency at the time it was created, although Pam was, I think, a big part of that project. Did a really amazing job of, like you said, making it age appropriate, making it geared towards children. And the truth is that sometimes it's a hard to hear message in general, right? Like, it's unfortunate that we have to have a conversation with 4-year-olds to be able to have the language and the skills to keep themselves safe. But that's the world that we live in. So most of the people and most of the schools and the experiences that we've had with this video have been overwhelmingly positive. But admittedly, it's a hard topic, like you said right in the beginning. So it's always a bittersweet moment. It's wonderful when we see a child get excited about the video and remembers, no, run away, tell someone. And at the same time, there is definitely a somber overall feeling to having to have that conversation in the first place.
It's a difficult but necessary conversation. Yes. And I do want to say that we don't put the entire responsibility on the child to keep themselves safe. It's just one of the many tools that we use so that we can initiate that conversation. And it's a conversation that should be had early and often. And we have tools for adults, parents, caregivers, to be prepared to have, their side of the conversation as well. And so, we have many videos in the Keeping Kids Safe series that are meant to be engaging and informative.
So where will people find the Keeping Kids Safe series?
So all of our videos are available on our YouTube channel, and our YouTube handle is just at CNVC Sonora. So if you look it up, you'd find that in a whole
Sonora.
You find that in a whole host of other videos that address prevention efforts in our community.
Okay. Well, thank you both for coming and sharing what you do, because I think that the community at large doesn't really know. We have some idea that you help, we help victims of abuse, but how and how we try to prevent it, that's a really important story to get out, and I appreciate you helping us do that.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. When we come back, we're going to meet someone worth knowing. We're back. By now you know that when we say love doesn't have to hurt, we're not talking about the heartbreak when a relationship ends, or the pangs you might feel when you run into your ex, or the pain of losing a loved one. We're talking about the right of all people to live their lives free of personal violence. We close the show with a segment called Someone Worth Knowing. Meet Mary Orlando, past president of CNBC's board of directors, known as the Guardian Council.
I've been involved with the Center for Nonviolent Community in its many different phases since 1997. And the way I got involved was that I worked at Tuolumne General Hospital emergency room, and I worked there for 10 years. I was the nurse manager of the emergency department. And so we provided a space for all the sexual assault exams for adults and children. One of the things that drew me to that work is that I myself have experienced some episodes of personal violence. And So I really felt connected to the work and the people that I served, and wanted to make sure that our hospital could serve these clients in the most respectful, professional, and complete way during a time of their lives when they're sometimes in shock, don't know what to think, need some comfort, but some structure to what's happening to them. That person maybe had to leave their home with just the clothes on their back. They don't know where to turn, who to get help from, with support all the way, so that they're making their own decision, but we're helping them with that decision. What are the best choices you have here? And we can kind of guide them that way to make good decisions for themselves.
That woman knows something about renewing lives and restoring futures. What tremendous compassion. That does it for this pilot episode of Love Doesn't Have to Hurt. I hope we struck the right balance between light and heavy. Thanks for your time, and remember, love doesn't have to hurt.